Welcome to season two of the Jeremy Mullins podcast, where we take a deep dive into different educational topics to help you optimize your life. I am Jeremy, your host, registered dietitian and strength coach, here today with my team partner inside the First Form app on Team Alpha, Mr. Montae.
Good morning, sir. Season two. I'm loving the seasons.
No, no, I listen. I'm trying to. There for a while. I was wanting to change it up and do this big like background, and I'm like, man, I just sound funny. I'm sticking with hey, we're here to take a deep dive, help you optimize your life, and just call it season two.
I like it. It's like seasons on Netflix, but this is a little more educational, a little more valuable. Might get a little bit into that today.
Yeah, well, it's so crazy because here we are, January 21st when we're filming this episode, and I wanted to do a show a day, man, and it's been a whirlwind to start the year. And what I mean by that is just like the busyness, and then the weather, and I know I got it. You gave me that look. I'm in Florida. We actually have a snow day tomorrow. Just
I
just
actually heard that I work with some people who live in Texas, and apparently they're getting some snow days.
Oh yeah, I mean, evidently people don't know how to drive down here when there's a little bit of snow, and I think it's the same way in maybe Texas and some of these southern states. They don't understand this cold weather.
But you said y'all some weather, and we just had about a foot of snow with some ice on top of it. So
Yes. Well, and that's my struggle personally with this hasn't been the weather and the workout. Like my workouts, I'm doing good. Food wise, I'm doing good. Like all that's kind of in place. But where I've struggled a little bit is like I want a week of unbroken work without having to like keep the kids, right? And that's been the biggest thing because with school counseling and them being sick, like it's just I get up early to knock a few things out, I stay up late to knock a few things out to get everything done, but I'm not having this flow of a schedule during the week, which I'd like to get to knock out the podcast where we can do more than one or two a week. But I digress. That's my personal issue here with season two. It's just not off to what I envisioned and what I wanted, but it's okay. We've got a bunch in the pipeline, and we'll catch up and be rolling with 4 or 5 episodes a week before we know it.
let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Where do you want to start?
Man, today's Tuesday.
All right, you'll start with some tough love.
What do we do on Tough Love Tuesdays?
Tough love Tuesdays. Yes, let's just jump into it. And I posted this today, on my Instagram, and I'm guilty of this, you're guilty of this in the past, and I think we all are, is thinking that there has to be this perfect balance of life, right? And I've got to be able to have this amount of time to do this, amount of time to do that. And I think a lot of people think balance is 9 to 5, right? Like, hey, I'm going to work and it's going to be 9 to 5 and that's all I'm going to work. And then this is going to be family time. And the reality is that's not true. Okay. But I think the reality really comes down to the perception that a lot of people have. And what I mean by that is saying that I don't have time to do something. And then the reality being you're just not making it a priority. Okay. And when I say this, I want the listener, I want everyone to not get upset at me, not get upset at yourself, but truly self analyze yourself in this sense. Okay. And what I mean by that is two simple questions I asked. How much TV did you watch last week? And how much was you on your phone, social media? Okay. And I got it. Some people are like, well, Jeremy, I work or I do this on social media. I have to be on there. Okay. 100%. I get that. But do you have to be on there 8 hours a day to do that work? And if that's the case, how efficient are you? So, a question to you, Monte. What's your average minutes you think in the last 3 weeks of TV you watched and then on social media unproductive, right? So I get it. You do things on social media to showcase wellness and fitness, right? But what would you say is your average watching of TV and your average minutes of useless social media in the last 3 weeks?
So, fun fact, I don't watch TV. If there is a sports game on, every once in a while I might watch it, but I don't really watch a lot of TV. If I'm watching something on TV, it's usually YouTube and it's educational purposes. It's me working on becoming a better coach, me doing things that's going to help with my effective communication, like always working on something like developing myself. Now, old me spend a lot of time on TV, binge watching Netflix, binge watching like my favorite shows. But I've kind of changed that around. And then with social media, yes, I do a lot of stuff on social media, work purposes, education, trying to motivate and inspire people. And this is something else I've improved in. I would say unproductive time, probably 30 or so minutes a day. And I will get on there and I will get on there to do work stuff. And then something catches your eye, social media, all these things on these little gadgets are designed to steal our attention. So I might see a reel of something, the next thing you know, I'm like, oh, okay, and then swipe to the next one, swipe to the next one. And I've actually set timers on my phones and like things that go off to remind me, okay, it's time to be done with this.
Okay. So I
And
would
I'll
say,
share real quick something I heard that like kind of helped me with this was successful people do not waste time. And I kind of like remind myself of that. Like if I start get to scrolling, that quote pops up in my head, and I'm like, okay, cut it off, and I immediately cut that stuff out.
well, it's funny that you say that because I'm trying to work on a little bit more with my family and with my kids because I'll get frustrated with that. Like if I'm behind or I've had to take my time to do other stuff, like efficiency, right? And I caught myself the other day because I'm standing outside the vehicle and like everybody's still in the car. Katie was on her phone checking something. The kids were like not getting out, and like in my mind, I'm like, this is 3 fucking minutes, like 3 minutes that I could have been doing something else, and I have to catch myself in that. But you're 100% like, how do you be efficient? And it was the same way. I actually posted this on our Facebook page today because it popped up from, I think 2021, 2022. Like if I look at my computer here, the left-hand side, like there are 4 keypads that are completely gone. Like if I didn't know how to type, I'd be like, well, what's those things? Because I learned a long time ago to get back to 100 messages, a day, that if I take my hands off the keyboard, I can't get back as fast. So I leave that left hand kind of laying on there to press enter or whatever I need to do, and then boom, it's right back in there. So more efficiency, and I would 100% agree with that, right? And I'd say, we'll always put it on it, because we don't like absolutes, but most successful people do not waste time. Now, at certain levels, maybe someone doesn't work as long because they're very efficient in the time that they're working, right? So you can be like, oh, I know someone's really successful, works 4 hours a day. Great. But I bet they worked a bunch of hours before that, or they developed and become very efficient at their time and their systems.
Yeah, you develop skills. It's not always about working more. If you can get more done in less time, then you have that time to go and do other things that you want to do.
Yeah. Now, rolling back to that, I'm going to ask you, okay, so you've wasted, okay, and not been as sufficient at probably 30 minutes a day. Is that a fair statement compared to what you said earlier?
Yes.
Okay. You've been successful in the past 3 weeks, though, right?
Yes.
Wellness wise, give us some results.
Yeah. As far as my results. So yeah, I mean, I've still showed up. I've done my training program, still tracking my food, prioritizing protein and calories, like drinking my water, like all the things that we coach. I've
Yep.
still been doing those over the last 3 weeks.
And business wise, employment wise, in a better spot now than you were 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, getting back to my people more efficiently, getting them better feedback, like all sorts of things.
Okay. Family, wife, kids. Feel like you're a better father now, 3 weeks into the year than you were 3 weeks ago.
100%. Yes. I
Okay.
think she would agree too.
Yeah. And you've had some of the same obstacles I have as far as like kids being home, wife having to be at work, just in that position, that they can't take off. Right.
Yeah, if you hear a 3-year-old start screaming, they're home today.
I've got one home today. So 1 out of 3 today. Um, So we've been passing on top of, the days off school and all that. We've been passing around the sickness. So they're home today. Adjust this. Like, as if you're seeing this on YouTube, I'm at the home office today versus the studio doing the podcast, right? Because once again, got a kid home. It's just making adjustments. So, all right. Now we talk about, I love, thinking of the term sacrifice and investment. Okay. And I'm okay using each one, but I think they're interchangeable, right? Because I think a lot of times we'll use the term sacrifice when it's something that means a lot to us or we want to do, in that maybe immediate time or right then and there. versus investment, we can really think of it, down the future, right? So, putting 5%, 10%, 15% respectively away in your retirement, you might think of that as an investment, as most people do, but also you could think of it as a sacrifice. They're interchangeable terms. Now, investments generally yield better response mentally, right? Because we know there's something positive that's going to come out of it. Versus, I think the term sacrifice, it is more of a negative cognitive term. So when you're sacrificing, you're doing without. But I think a lot of people must understand that, hey, it's going to be tough. You have to do a few things that might be hard at the time to make that investment in your future self, to make that investment in your future family, into your future position at your work.
Jeremy, I'm gonna stop you there. I want to ask you because I mean you've always been someone I looked up to with when it comes to career, family, etc. Looking back to
Was
the
you
old
sitting
Jeremy.
down when you were looking up to me? I just want to make sure we're clear
No,
that.
like if I look up to you, I'm definitely laying on the floor.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to make sure, right?
I passed out from a workout. I'm on the floor and I'm looking up, asking you
Gotcha.
for help.
Okay, now
No, but
everybody's tracking that.
back, start of your career, or how long have you been with First Form now?
So this will, man, that's a great question. Brielle was born in 2015. So this is going on 11 years.
When you're doing it that long, it just like time just flies. But with that, you did a lot in your career. When it comes to helping with the app, the transformation, leading the transformation, and all these things, right? And you had family, right? And you moved out to St. Louis from West Virginia, and you had to make some sacrifices or investments in your career. And as that career grew, you took on more roles, you took on bigger roles, you were working a lot more hours. What were those sacrifices or investments that you had to make when it came to family, the sacrifices that led to those investments later on down the road to like where you are now?
Yeah. I think, and a lot of people don't, they look at, okay, what is the present state of someone, right? They look at what is the present state. And I think you can relate this to wellness and career. So a lot of people may look at yourself, they may look at me, may look at some of the transformations that we put out there, people, and they see the final product, but they don't see what occurs along the way, right? And it's the same thing with like producing results within transformations. Like, this is not, the consistency of us pumping out results hasn't came in the last year or two. It's came in the last 25 years for me, adding on a decade for you, right? So we got 35 years collectively that we've been trying and doing different stuff. That's where it comes from. But if you look back at like balance, and sacrifice, there was times when it would be a 3:30 in the morning wake up call, and that would be answering messages, right? And answering messages for me, and we talk about efficiency, would be at any point. Okay, so get up in the morning, 3:30 to 5:30 in the morning, was answering messages, at home, just trying to catch up. No one else up in the morning. Then it would be, spend a little bit of time working out on myself, help with the kids, get them up in the morning, and then off to work, right? And then the work hours, it would still be answering messages, but it was other responsibilities throughout the day. But what I learned was, I could send an extra 50 messages a day if I answered messages as I was walking, right? If as I'm warming up on a treadmill, before my workout started, if I was answering messages then, I would change my zone 2, training, on a bike so I could answer messages. So there was all this like, how can I get back to more people more efficiently without taking away from my family, right? And that was my thought process. I still wanted to spend time with them. I still wanted their evenings to be there. I still wanted to take them to gymnastics. I wanted to take them to practice. I wanted to do all those things and be present. And there was times, yes, that I get frustrated. I get frustrated if I couldn't leave work on time related to someone else or some other responsibility. Like that's where I would a lot of times end up frustrated. And I would tell people, try to control what you can control, so you don't get that frustration in there, right? And not once I think of like, it won't pay off, or this is not something that I want to be able to do. And to a degree, it was fun. It was fun to find, where is that balance of how much I can push myself? How many people can I get back to? How many people can I coach? How many things can I do? It was fun. And then I always remember this, like, if you want to have success, you got to be willing to do things that other people will not do, no matter what domain, right? Whether we're talking about a 8-week transformation, a year transformation, success within your business, like you have to be willing to do things that other people are not willing to do.
Love it. Now, I want to take something you said too as well. You said, you would get up early, 3:30, 4:30, answer messages so you could get ahead of those things so you didn't take away time from your family later on. And just thinking of, the parent that I have a conversation with who, and we're going to take this back to the wellness side of things, doesn't want to go work out because they don't want to, take time away from their kids. And that's where you see a lot of people will make that investment or that sacrifice, get up early, go get that workout early before, the kids are even up. And I understand there are going to be people who, single parents and stuff like that. But taking that and just showing like, hey, I had to get up and do this thing early in the morning because I knew I was going to be busy that day. And I wanted to spend that time with the kids in the evening. If I didn't make that investment by getting up early, that would have cut into that time with the kids later on.
Yeah. And even now, like, things change, seasons of life change. Now my wife works out early in the morning because she has to be at work at a certain time for them to start practice, right? So I still get up early now, but it's not to work out, it's not to answer messages. Yes, I'll still get in there and answer messages. It's almost like, that habit for me, right? Like get up and look and see where I'm at, messages and assessments in the app to kind of assess the day. But I'm also doing things like, okay, like I'm on right now, this is, I think, the 17th day in a row that I've done a load of laundry. So I'm just doing a load of laundry every single day, right? So I'm learning how, going back to what you said earlier, how can we be as efficient as possible and produce the best results so that we don't get overwhelmed in this process, right? And going back to like finding your balance as an individual and balance with your family. There's not a perfect schedule. Okay. I could wait and do quote unquote laundry on the weekend, but sitting there doing laundry on the weekend and cleaning the house on the weekend, like to me, that is harder on me mentally and emotionally than having to do something a little bit every day and just upkeeping it. Right. Totally different. I mean, to a degree, different conversation, but just showing you how, like, you're going back to what you said, it's about being efficient. It's not about how much time you can work or how early you can get up. It's not about that. It's how efficient can we be in our daily routines.
Now, the question I know the viewers and the listeners have right now is when you talk about doing laundry, is that washing, drying, and folding the laundry, or do you just do the wash and dry and leave the rest for Katie?
No. It is all of it now. Now, don't get me wrong. In the past, I used to give her a hard time, be like, "Hey, I did the laundry before I left on my trip," and doing the laundry was just like making sure that there was a load in the dryer, a clean load that you'd just taken out of the dryer, and one that was just going to finish up in the washer when you were gone. Be like, "Hey, I did the laundry," right?
Yeah, I'm 100%. You did it.
It's like cleaning the kitchen used to be, "Hey, I cleaned the kitchen," and it was really just put the dishes in the dishwasher. Yeah, got to make sure you define those abilities.
Right.
Now, I think along with this, you're talking about like making things a priority and making things, when you come to like, okay, truly, did you not have time to complete something, or was it a priority? Goes down to like, are you doing the things to produce the results? And it's another thing that we're going to see about this time. We're, once again, this is the third week into January. We're going to get people towards the end of the month that started their journey at the beginning of the year. And unfortunately, they're going to give up. They're going to give up because maybe they're not seeing the results, or their expectation of results was kind of skewed based on maybe something they saw on social media, based on, something that they want there, which is always crazy to me, getting people like, man, like this time, they're like, "Jeremy, I'm just not progressing like I thought I was." And I will look and they're down 3 to 4 pounds. And I'm like, "You're down 3 to 4 pounds and we still got a couple of weeks to go in this month. That means we're going to lose 4 to 5 pounds this month. That is an awesome loss." But in their mind, they're expecting 10, 15 pounds, in these short periods of time. So let's talk about like expectations. Let's talk about, following the game plan and doing the work to produce the results.
So yeah, one person I always think about this, and it was a guy that you coached, was just Adam. And every time I think about, Adam, what was his total? Was 110 pounds or whatever in 11 months?
I think so, yes. Let's pull it
And
up real quick.
when you told his story, you know, he lost 4 pounds in the first month, and that was it. That was quote unquote it, right? That's all he had lost. So I like to go back on his story because everybody does progress differently. Everybody's not going to be the same. There's I think you said it before, the 3 weekers, and I'm one of those people. Like when I get going on the game plan, I can be nails on everything, doing my cardio, doing my training, resistance training, sleeping, and I won't see any change for real for 3 weeks. But then next thing you know, it starts dropping like that. And then to touch on that, one of the biggest things, and you talked about the comparison game, and you kind of talked about it earlier, talking about the career. When people are looking at some of these results that people are getting online, these spectacular results, this person dropped this much and that much, you have to respect and look at the work that those people did. Like, you don't know that, you just see the result. But what were those people doing compared to what you were doing? And that was actually my tough love to my team this morning is you're comparing yourself to somebody who's probably put in A plus work ethic. And you have to evaluate and say, like, okay, yeah, maybe you're working a little bit hard, but are you doing these things to a T? I mean, 95% of the time, minimum. Are you doing these things? And you have to really self-evaluate and like accept responsibility for where you are based on what you've been doing, not comparing it to the people who have been doing everything, going all in on themselves. Right? If we have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, we're not going to see the results like those people are seeing.
And I think some great examples of that is like, okay, hey, you're doing well on your nutrition Monday through Friday, but then you're slipping up on the weekends, right? And everybody's like, well, I'm doing all these things, throughout the week. And yeah, I let myself, have a little bit on the weekends or whatever, and I'm not seeing results. Okay, it's not guaranteed that you're going to get results, if you do the work 80% of the time, right? Like it's not guaranteed that 80% of the results will come with 80% effort or 80% of the time running the play. The reality is you could run the play 80% of the time, but if you mess up or you don't run the play another 20%, you're not going to see any results at all.
Yeah, and
And
depending on how that 20% is, like, is that 20% going way overboard? Like, are we eating
yes,
thousands of calories a day? Because somebody could do like an 80-20 maybe and get results, but maybe on the weekends, they might be eating more at a maintenance level compared to the deficit throughout the week. So they're still going to see some slight results. But then there's the person who's 80-20, but those calories are more at a surplus level. So then they get on the scale Monday, and then the scale hasn't moved. So there's a difference in even the percentages right there that you speak of.
100%. Yeah. And once again, take that in context, right? I don't want people to be like, well, Jeremy said, I can't mess up 20% of the time. Well, what is the mess up, right? Like, we talk about this all the time. Like you have a Reese cup, have a Reese cup, get right back on track, right? Not a big deal. But then if you have the Reese cup, right, and then you have the other 5 Reese cups, and then you're like, well, we've already messed that up. Let me go ahead and have the 12 pack of beer along with the pizza, and you're once again saying you're 3,000 calories over on the weekend. Yes, you're undoing everything you've done during the week, right? And you have to be like, you have to look at that. Or we'll get a lot of people in. It's like, hey, I'm doing, I'm walking every day, but then maybe they're missing their protein 50% of the time, only got one resistance training in. Like, yes, you're in a much better spot than you were 3 weeks ago, right? You need to be able to assess that ability and say, okay, I'm doing much better than I was 3 weeks ago, granted, but maybe I'm still not doing enough to produce the results that I expect. And I can think that's kind of what, we got to wrap our mind around, we're thinking about, okay, what is those expectations? Okay. You can't expect, okay, now I'm putting 15% in my retirement, but I'm nowhere near a millionaire. No, it's going to take a while. It's going to take, 20, 30 years of work putting in 15% in order to see, a million plus in that savings account, or I'm sorry, in that retirement account. Just another way to look at it from that aspect.
Yeah.
What are some of the things like aha moments for people that you work with when this clicks? What are some of the things that you can think of, like going back to someone where like it just kind of that, oh, that makes sense, or oh, they're ready to buy in 100%. What are some examples of that you've seen along the way?
And one of the biggest things is when people develop habits and what we call the snowball effect. So they maybe they're going from nothing, right? They're not doing any kind of movement, their nutrition isn't there. Maybe they just start tracking their food, prioritizing protein, maybe getting some walks in a day. And they realize once they do this over time, they start to see maybe a little bit of results. When they're doing these things consistently, right? They start to see a little bit of results, and then it becomes a habit, they add in something else, and they start to realize it's okay. First I was doing nothing, now I'm just becoming consistent with this. And I'm not gonna say it's rare, but a lot of people, like you said, they expect they have these big expectations, so they kind of fall off if they're not getting it. But every once in a while, we'll have those people who are like, you know what? I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna stick it out. I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna stick it out. And the big aha moments is when they stick it out for a period of time, doing these things consistently, and then they start to see those little results. And I've had people even tell me, like word by word, is like, if I would have been doing this, and this, I can only imagine what the results would have been then, because maybe it's 2 months down the road and they're down 3 pounds. They've still made progress, but if they would have added, staying within the calorie budget, resistance training, this could have taken it from that weight to being down 8 pounds of body fat. So one of the big aha moments is when they stay consistent with it over a long period of time with even the smallest habits and the smallest habit changes, and then see a little bit of results.
Yeah. And I think, putting that in perspective, what we'd like to look at is, hey, walking on a daily basis, that becomes a habit, right? That's the reason we recommend walking versus low intensity cardio. Because low intensity cardio, there's barriers there. You have to have equipment. Maybe you have to have a gym membership, right? All those things go into play. And why we recommend the 45 to 60 minutes of walking, because A, it can be broken up. You can double dip, you can do other things in it, and it's a low entry barrier, right? Now, I get it. Right now, it's 0 degrees where a lot of you guys live. Very cold. Okay. Could you replace that low intensity walking with, riding a treadmill or riding a treadmill? Right. Riding a treadmill.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could turn it on. I could see Dennis McLaughlin trying to earn his Garmin points by doing that, like just hopping up on a treadmill and working and, turning it on. Hint, Dennis, if you're listening. But riding a bike, hopping on a treadmill, elliptical, could you do? Yes, 100%. If you have access to a gym membership, you have that equipment at home, you could definitely replace, the walking, for that, for the purposes of dropping body fat and what we want to do. But what we're really looking for is that habit long term. Habit of eating protein and produce, right? Protein and produce with each meal or each snack. That is a habit that gets into play. Yes, maybe you overeat sometimes, maybe you undereat sometimes, but the habit of eating those things should be in where you don't even think about it. And then I would add to that, Monte, I really want to push this as more education from a nutritional standpoint. The habit of doing less processed foods, right? The habit of doing less processed foods. So staying away from the cookies, the cakes, the sweets, the deep fried foods, the fast foods, like eliminating all that stuff. Taking your foods and looking at your peanut butters and seeing which ones have added, sugar into it, which ones don't have added sugar, right? All those things will become habits, and then it's the habit of purchasing that better product. It just becomes natural. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to waste energy on it. You just do it, right?
And I love that, because you think about it, people, if you think about not taking away what adding to, so if you start adding protein into somebody's diet, they start eating more whole foods over processed foods. I'm all for someone tracking their food, figuring out where they're at, but you are naturally going to eat less calories in a day if you're eating more lean protein sources than you were before, and if you're eating more whole foods.
Yes.
Like if like me, I'm a tank. I can put down some food. But when I go to where I'm eating mainly fruits, veggies, complex carbohydrates, and protein, I get to the point where it's like I'm struggling to eat my food. I'm
Yeah.
struggling to eat that much food. So you can
Well,
like just doing those things right there, you're naturally going to eat less calories throughout the day and help you burn body fat.
100%. And that goes back, man, a long time ago, dating myself with this, there was a book that was based on volume. The diet was like eat volume of food, right? Because it's going to fill you up. And once again, it was things that were low calorie, high volume, and those are great things. But that's a habit, right? That's a habit that we want people to instill and do it. And remember, it takes energy to make choices. People forget about this. And I forget where the study is, but you probably just do a search online for like how many calories burned in a chess match, right? Or in a chess tournament. And there was a study of like showing how many calories, I forget, I'm not a chess player, so don't quote me on this. I know they got terms for what they are, but it was like how many calories they burned throughout this whole tournament, and they didn't really move, right? Other than moving the pieces, it was mental energy, the brain using up more glucose because it's thinking and it's working. So we don't take into consideration, like the mental energy that it takes to make choices throughout the day. And this is why a lot of people mess up when things go wrong, they're out of the routine, is because you have to think. Maybe you're tired, and when you're tired, you're going to make the easier choice. And unfortunately, the easier choice a lot of times, well, let's just get fast food, right? Let's get the bad foods. And that goes into the last thing I want to kind of touch on today's topic. So we kind of hit on making things a priority, making things, when you make things a priority, they get done. And a lot of times you got to look at it as, did you really not have time, or did you not make it a priority? Okay. Talk about the balance. There's not a perfect balance. Don't think of it as 9 to 5. Think of it as, being present where you're at. Sometimes that means you need to put a little bit more hours into work. Sometimes it means you need to put a little bit more hours in your family. Sometimes it means to put a little bit more hours into yourself. But knowing when to fill that specific cup matters. All right. And the last part, kind of a go and do, is habit stacking. So let's talk about what is habit stacking. How can people utilize it to optimize their life and help them get into better routines and also build good habits? What is or you can do definition, but you also do example, what is habit stacking, how you've used it.
So, and this is something I've actually been doing recently. I'm gonna go into it because we kind of talked about the benefits of a little bit of walking.
Yep.
So one of my habit stacks I'm having people doing this. Habit stacking is pretty much you have a habit that you already have in place, and you add another habit on top of it. So pretty much you're already doing this. You're gonna get in the habit of doing this as soon as you do this. For example, I've been having people who are struggling to go for a 45-minute walk take 10-minute walks after each meal. So you
A whole nother rabbit hole there. Plenty of research out there showing that how that can aid in glucose levels.
digestion, insulin sensitivity,
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah.
So simple throughout the day, and you can do this at the office, you can do this at home, however you want to do it. But you have the habit of you eating a meal, everybody eats, right? You eat your meal, you go for a 10-minute walk. So that is stacking habits. You have a habit of eating daily, you're going to add that 10-minute walk on top of it. And if you eat 4 or 5 meals a day, that's 40 to 50 minutes of walking that you did intentionally.
Love it. And going back to it, so habit stacking is looking at your routine, being honest with yourself, and say, what habits do I have in place? And a lot of times, don't think of these as complete wellness habits and nutrition and exercise. Okay. Maybe you're looking at like hygiene habits. All right. Hey, Jeremy, I take a shower and brush my teeth. Perfect. What do we do before that? What do we do after that? Right. So you can kind of pick this one thing that kind of stimulates other habits in a row. Okay. And I've done this one at night, like in nighttime routine. Okay. So part of my night routine is once I put the baby down, okay, once I put the baby down, it kind of starts this cascade of what I do. Put the baby down, go check the doors, right? Before I lock the garage door, get KD2 bottles of water, put 2 cold bottles of water in the refrigerator inside for me, and then grab 1 cold bottle of water to fix our nighttime drink, right? So then I go over, I fix both Katie and I's nighttime drink, which is respectively 5 grams of creatine for her with a scoop of magnesium, mine 2 scoops of creatine, so 10 grams along with the magnesium, right? So that's kind of like boom, 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 automatically happen. Then I'll go in and shower, brush my teeth, make one last run, make sure everything's good in the house, turn the lights off, and then go to bed. So that is like my routine that kind of kicks off, with that. And I'm happy to say, like, for the past few months, well, probably 6-ish months now, I've been really consistent in taking creatine versus before I struggled with it, right? Because you can take it anytime you want to, and I'd take it in my post-workout stack, but then I didn't work out every day. And it just become like, man, I'm not taking this as a consistency that I want to. And there's all this great research out there now on the mental aspect as I'm aging, which matters to me. So that's the reason I wanted to make sure that I had it in there, right? So you can pick that 1 or 2 things that you're doing to create those habits in the morning. Same thing I talked about earlier, my streak of doing the laundry. So what I do is first thing in the morning, once everyone's dressed and, PJs are, whether they're dirty because they're kids, man, I feel like Brady's got to have a new pair of underwear every single day. Even if he just showers at night, puts them on, wears them for nighttime, they go in the dirty laundry. So that's been once again just that habit I've started in the morning. After I get up, pre-workout, use the bathroom, right? Like kind of start the process, depending on the time it is, what I'm going to do. But then grabbing that laundry just becomes part of that process before I put my contacts in. So just some examples of habit stacking as you're looking to build those routines. All you got.
Yeah, good.
Good. So not too bad. We didn't get too rough with Tough Love Tuesday.
No, we gave a little bit more love
Yeah, a little more
so
love,
far.
not as much tough. Give us a few more weeks, right? And the toughness really will come out as we get a lot of people using obstacles as excuses.
Oh yeah, then there's gonna be some fire coming out.
Because I have a saying, if the same obstacle comes up over and over, and you continue making the same choice, it's no longer an obstacle.
It's a decision.
It's a decision that you're making 100%. Man, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you've done. I'm excited as we go into this new year to continue, building a legacy, and building a team, a community within Team Alpha, within the First One community that's, just unstoppable in producing results. And it's cool to see people's progression. It's cool to see other people have success. We've had plenty of people bounce out of, I don't say out of our community, extend out and start their own coaching, which is awesome. That means we're just helping more people, as we progress, forward. So to anyone listening to the podcast, hey, please share it with a friend. Do us a favor, share it with a friend, bring us someone to our community that we can either coach or just come in and listen to the podcast so they can gain education out of it and help change their life. We appreciate you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day.